Okay, hey Dominique, how are you?
I'm great, Monday. How you doing?
I'm good, and I'm glad you took some time to speak with me this morning. I don't know what time is it where you are?
It's the
So,
afternoon. Morning, evening, just speaking and during the day, right? That's
yes, morning for me, afternoon for you. So why don't you tell everybody where you are?
yeah. So I'm living in Seoul, South Korea right now.
Yep. Yeah, she's living in Seoul, South Korea. So what's that? So we're continuing our conversation today from the podcast as we didn't get so much time to talk on there. And just to refresh for the people who didn't get to hear the podcast, Dominique is also a coach and she also wrote a book. So give us a little bit about your book again.
Yeah. So the book is called "Live Your New Story: Discover Your Best Self and Live Your Best Life." It's a really long title.
Very long time.
Your new story, and I don't have a copy. Gosh, I should have gotten a copy of the book right here. And it's essentially about my 10 years of struggling with professional identity
Mm,
as
mm.
a person living abroad. I'm originally from California. However,
Yep.
my spouse works with the U.S.
Me
Embassy.
too.
So, California, Cali vibes.
Yes.
And so moving every 2 years, and on top of that, the layers of adding new members to the family and
Yeah, yeah.
different cultures and figuring out what it is I wanted to do professionally. So it's kind of like that coming of age in like your 20s/30s. Who
Yeah.
do I want to be?
Hindsight. We call that hindsight,
Right?
right? Right.
Who do I want to be in this new stage of life, and what does
Yeah.
success mean? So that's essentially what the book is about. And also the story of how I got into coaching, because I realized for all those years I was coaching myself in my journals, like
Yeah.
answering questions like
Yeah.
what's important
Yeah.
to me, what are my values,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just getting really clear about why I do what I do and what
Nice.
lights me up every day.
Nice, nice. Well,
Yeah.
let's dig into that. I wanted to dig into that a little bit more because I know a lot of people struggle with with their careers when they're moving around abroad. Lots of my clients, and I'm pretty sure lots of yours, that sometimes what do you how do you think that some people think it's going to be easier than it actually is?
Yeah, I think just as humans, there's this idea, this notion that if I have my career set, then
Yeah.
everything else will fall into place, right? Because
Yeah.
there's that sense of security, like I'm getting a
Or a sense
paycheck,
of purpose for
sense
yeah.
of purpose, yeah,
Mm,
sense of purpose, sense of place, and I think that idea and that notion of living abroad, living in a foreign country, it's so adventurous. It's like, why
yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
But then the reality of it is it's hard because you're away from your parents, you're away from your family, you're away from your
Your
culture,
support system.
yeah, your support system, and you're basically trying to understand who you are in this new space and who you
Sure.
want to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
without
Yeah.
even realizing that those are the questions that are that are going on in your
In your
head.
mind. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes you land in a country and you're like, all right, I'm cool, and then all of a sudden it's just like, how come things don't feel right, or like I feel lost,
Yeah.
or I feel like things are just off. So I think it sounds easy, but or people think it's easy, the transition will be, but then when it comes, it's challenging. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, for me, with working with people, I think a lot of people are shell shocked by the fact that it takes a lot longer than they thought it was going to take. I think, and also, I think it depends on what field of work you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people don't tend to do enough investigation about their field of work. How is that valued in the country that you're going to?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all value things differently. Like I was talking with the woman who is a personal trainer. Now, in the States, personal trainers can make really good money because people are really into their bodies and image and fitness. But, you go to some place else where that's not really the case. Uh, and then now your skill is undervalued. So, what are some of the things you would say help people to pivot or to relook at their skills?
It's that's a great question, and I think the main thing is to understand that once you leave your country, your expectations need to shift dramatically. Because what is normal in your country for, let's say, a doctor or a lawyer or a physical therapist or anything, right? That's you're working within a system that you understand. However, you're going to another system.
Yeah.
Different culture, different language,
different values.
Different values. And so I think you hit it again, like Monday, you're so great, like this values. Right? Like not everyone has that California mindset where like we're all into our body.
We're all like, everybody wants a six pack. They want that Venice Beach look,
No.
Yeah.
And so I would say, it's go look into the culture that you're moving into. What do they value, and how much do you want to invest into that culture to change yourself, to change the way that you approach your profession? Because it's going to take some time to adapt what you do to the culture. And on top of that, learning the language, on top of that, building the network. Yeah. So it depends on, again, it depends. How long are you staying and what do you want to experience there? Like, what is the value add for your life as well as the value add for others that you're trying to serve in terms of your work?
Now, when it comes to Seoul, because I don't know anything about Seoul, what would you say the working culture is like there?
Oh, it's intense.
Let's say compared to the United States, what would be some of those things that had stood out for you about the difference in working culture?
I would say it's definitely more hierarchical. And in the United States, there's some organizations that are pretty flat, right? Like you can walk into the CEO's office,
Google, it's like it's a game room,
and talk to them, right? And so here, there's definitely a hierarchy, like who is in charge, who are the team leads, like, and everyone kind of sticks to their level, like where they're supposed to be. And so in terms of work, so that's like working culture inside of a company. And then in terms of work life, it's like you have your work during the day and then you also have your work during the night, but that happens through socializing. So it's like the work happens all the time. It's like all day and night.
It's all day and night. Kind of like the States, 24/7.
Yeah, all day and night. And so I think the culture here, it's definitely intense, and there's a lot of there's high expectations, lots of efficiency, and
so if someone was going there and they wanted to have a career in Seoul, what would you say is some of the main things they would need to think about? Like, because I know in France, you have to have qualifications. It's not like the States where people are impressed by your experience or that you just know how to do this well. Because in the States, sometimes you can convince someone to give you a chance. And if you show people that you can actually do it and make them money, they're fine. But in France, it's not like that. You need to have degrees and diplomas and qualifications. That's what they want to have. So if someone was coming to Seoul, how do you think they could prepare themselves for that culture?
I would say if you're planning to stay here for a while, learn the language. I think if you're planning to work in Seoul or work in South Korea, you have to know the language. If you don't know it, it's really hard unless you have, an expat package working for, a big multinational, which is, there are a lot of those folks, but these are highly skilled, like biotech, electronics, and, like folks that are into the tech space. I've had a few friends come through and they're looking for jobs here, but it's hard because they don't speak the language. And so I would say, aside from your skill set, learning Korean, and then and then you'll be competitive. Other than that, like if you know English and there's a company that needs an English speaker and you could be that person, but you also have the skill set and the language, skill set and the know-how of that industry, then you could kind of be like that spokesperson. But again, those types of jobs are hard unless you're networked into the country.
Right. Okay. And so are they similar? Like qualifications are are they a stickler on qualifications? Like what degree you have, what school you went to and stuff like that?
I mean, it's all, it's what school. Yeah, exactly that.
Exactly that. And so so your clients, are they people who have come to Seoul and are looking to recreate their lives? Do you get some people from where you are, or are you just sort of dealing with people from all over?
So actually, most of my clients are are folks that have followed their spouse to Seoul, and now they're like
Right.
a lot of them. They're off into another country now, trying to
Yeah.
figure out their new life. So people that are definitely moving from country to country every few years,
Right.
and mostly Americans and mostly English speaking, because that's what I do.
Right. Right.
And really trying. They're really trying to define what it is that they want to do and what meaning they want to create in this lifestyle.
Right.
Because being a foreigner for a long time in different countries or in one country, like you really have to decide what is it that's going to make you feel fulfilled and purposeful and happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I know you have to go soon. So just give us a little taste of how you help them on to start that journey. What do you say would be some of those things that you ask them to connect with first, just to get them thinking on the right track of that journey? You know, if they're coming to Seoul or any country that's similar to maybe Korea, the hierarchical kind of lifestyle, how do you help them to start that journey?
It all goes back to values. Like, what do you value? What are your core values?
Yeah.
What does success mean to you now? Because success, yes, last year might be completely different than success this year.
Right.
And be highly conscious of that meaning, because that clarity will guide you in your decision making moving forward in terms of what opportunities to seek, what types of relationships to invest in, and where to spend your time. Because if you're abroad and you're a foreigner and you're like spending time in the wrong places thinking you're going to get results, it's going to be hard. It's going to be frustrating.
Sure.
And if you're very, you're strategic about the way that you use your time and the way that you put yourself out there, like, hey, I'm Dom the coach, or I'm Dom the yoga instructor, even though I'm not a yoga instructor, then you're gonna attract those kinds of people.
Right.
So it's really, I think if you're open, and this is for everyone listening and watching, go check out the entrepreneurial spaces, because that's where you're going to meet a lot of people that want to network and that want to explore and discover and meet people. Like that's where I found the most results in terms of figuring out how to navigate this country. And here in Seoul, I met another American who was a happiness coach, and I went to one of her workshops. And instantly, like, I was connected to all these other entrepreneurs, and it was so great because I didn't know anyone coming in except for a few
connection is so important. I think people, when you're making those transitions, having that support and people who can give you insight about the workforce where you are, I think is really really important. And another question I had for you is, do you speak Korean?
Very little.
Very little. So I was going to ask you, on the scale of language, how easy is it to learn Korean?
It's hard. It's hard unless it's like it's hard, especially if you're not consistently with Korean speakers all the time. Like, I learn language best when I'm like, you throw me into the country and it's all that everyone speaks and there's no English. However, because of where I'm at, I speak with a lot of other Americans. So Korean is not a necessity. I know Spanish. Spanish is pretty easy for me. Korean is a whole different, different alphabet, different everything. You need to invest at least, to get really good, I'd say at least 2 to 3 years of intense.
I think French is the same.
Yeah.
French it took me about 3 years for French as well. But I think, for anyone who's watching and you're thinking about moving to a new country and you're bad with languages, or you think you're too old to learn a language, because people give me all kinds of excuses about why they can't learn the language. One, I am slightly dyslexic, so it took me forever to learn French. And all I can say is that the most empowering thing about learning a language, even if you can work with the English speakers where you're going, is that you figure out how to express yourself with the people where you live. Like, you can't expect to integrate fully into a culture if you can't speak some of the language. Right?
Agree.
Yeah. And so, it's a hard, but it's not easy. Learning languages is no easy feat, but I think it's definitely worth it in the end, what you get out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, when I think about, so the one country that I really learned languages in Costa Rica when I was in the Peace Corps, and I had to learn Spanish because if not, then I wouldn't survive. And it's amazing. Like you learn the language, you eat the food, you understand the local, just the local slang, like using their language. And suddenly you're a part of their culture. You're a part of their community. Yeah. And I remember there was a moment like 9 months and they started calling me like Dominique, like Latica, like she's Costa Rican now. She's like, she's not American anymore. They're like La Filipina Tica, like that was like Filipino Costa Rican in their in my site. And that's how they saw me, because they saw me as them. Like I spoke their language, I spoke like them, I dressed like them, I ate their food, you know, like and so there's that part where if you want to become that assimilate into a culture and just really embrace it, you can always put that hat on, and then you can become that. You know?
I mean, I think, you know, for me, I never really wanted to be French, but I like the French language and I love the French lifestyle. I mean, those are two things that I really enjoyed. But I think one of the important things for me, especially when I started doing business, was to understand communication.
Yeah.
Because when people don't feel like they can communicate with you, it's really hard for them to connect with you.
Yes. Ooh, so good. I hope y'all are taking some journals up. You know, it's so simple too. It's like if you can't communicate, how do you expect to connect?
Yeah.
You know, and there you go.
That's exactly what you're talking about. So when you were in, you know, when you were speaking Spanish and and they're like, okay, she's one of us, it's because they felt you, right? They felt that connection because you learned their language. But I know you have to go, but I thank you for stopping in, doing a little live so that we can talk a little bit further about the layers of, you know, developing your career in different cultures. And for those of you who want to get in touch with Dominique for her book, or, you know, you're in Seoul and you need to trying to figure out how to get your career and stuff off the ground, or just to get some positive vibes, I will put all her links in the in the comments below. Okay, well, go pick up those lovely babies, and I'm sure we'll speak soon. Okay?
Talk to you soon.
All right.